One. What's good, good people? Vets, let's talk. We got a special guest in front of the formation today. Sergeant Major Michael Salazar. Before we get started, click that like, share, and subscribe. HBO special, help a brother out, man. It's all about supporting the troops. How you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm good. How's the family doing?
Family is great. Family is great. We're going to get into that whole long story, but they are doing great. I appreciate you asking.
That's good, man. You looking good, bro. You looking like you in your 20s, you know.
That's the point. That is the point.
Hey, it's like a question I like to ask everybody that jumps on here. Where were you? Do you remember where you were during 9/11?
I do. Crazy story. So I had gotten out of the Army. I did a first enlistment, got out after 5 years because I thought I was king shit. I was an E5 sergeant, promotable with the points to staff sergeant. And I thought that police departments are going to knock down my door just asking me to be a cop in their department. Wasn't the case, man. And so my wife looked at me and she was just like, hey, you need to get back in the Army. We were both like working at a bar. It wasn't anything permanent. I was been married for maybe 6 months. And so I was at Fort Jackson in processing back into the Army. And I had to come back in as a specialist. And so, but I was, because I was an MP and a former NCO, they kind of put me in charge. And so, but I was on CQ the night before. So I woke up and everybody was kind of in the day room. And I walked in and everybody was just kind of like hushed. And I'm looking at the TV and honestly, I was like, nah, this is just a replay of what happened at the World Trade Center back in like 93. And they're like, no, this is live. And so, from then on, from right there, it was a crazy week because then it was the Drill Sergeant Academy was there at Fort Jackson. And so I sat there with a road guard vest with an M16, no magazine, guarding an empty parking lot for 1 week.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I did before they shipped me off to Germany.
Wow. I love hearing those stories because everybody's story is different. Hey, so, okay, let's jump into it real quick. What will you miss about your days of service?
Well, I think it's pretty common answer. What everybody says, it's the people. The relationships, the common bond that you have in the Army is something that very few people get to experience, especially, those that if you went to combat with an element. But it's that you embrace the suck. You're down in it. So I miss the people, but I also miss the places. There are plenty of times where I've been to so many different places in the world that other people don't get the opportunity to see, and I think it's an opportunity that very few people get. And so you cherish every second of it. And I will tell you that all the are we allowed to say bad words on this or what's
do you think?
All right, solid. So all the bad shit that happens, all the times where you get frustrated about the leadership, it doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. Like you miss the people, you miss the places. And so I'd say that.
Yeah, it's always the camaraderie, the people. It's always the people. Like you can never get rid of the bonds that you build with the people you come across from different walks of life.
Absolutely.
I just find it amazing. So what are some? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, from my retirement ceremony, I had two guys from when I was the platoon sergeant. One of them is about an hour and a half away from here in Springfield, and then another guy flew up from Georgia. And, so it's a shout out to Steve Acosta and Damien Garris. They came up for my retirement ceremony. And it's just, and I was in combat with these guys. And so, it's just one of those where you flash right back to, back to when you were down range or something like that. And it's just, love those guys. And I love everybody that I got to serve with.
Oh, wow. What are some fears that you have transitioning out of the Army, if any?
Well, I mean, there are fears. Obviously, military life was very predictable. Whether you that whether you believe it or not, it's the same story. Doesn't matter where you go. While the ranks may change, it's pretty predictable. So being in this unknown world now, tomorrow is not guaranteed, and you don't know what's going to happen with your job if you have one, if you can get one, which leads into that other part is, I'm fortunate enough to where, I'm able to retire, and the pension, and when that disability kicks in, everybody's excited for that. That assists, but that's not, my family's gotten used to a certain lifestyle, which is, makes me, I gotta go out and get another job. And so, that's being a provider for your family. So finances, that's a legitimate fear. And insurance, which it leads me into, a story about 2 years ago, 2020, when COVID kicked off.
Right.
It was like May or something like that. I've been told that I was going to be PCSing to Fort Leonard Wood, and my wife ended up getting COVID. And so, no big deal. She had a headache and, was tired and all that fun stuff for about a week. Well, fast forward 3 months, we PCS here to Fort Leonard Wood, and August 28th, she's 42 years old, healthy as a, whatever, insert your word there. I mean, she's extremely healthy. Well, she had a heart attack right there on the spot, and so, we had to deal with that for like 6 weeks. And then, right at the beginning of the year in November, in 2021, she got diagnosed with breast cancer. And so for the last couple of years, and that's why I'm talking about insurance, is because, while you're in and you've got that TRICARE, and everybody, let me tell you something, cancer treatment is about $1 million. And when you are a civilian and you got to pay for some of that, that can get expensive really quick. And so my wife is still going to have some treatments, and that's going to come out of my pocket. Now, thankfully, I'm going to continue with TRICARE, and that's one of the benefits that I did get for being, retired. So insurance for not only myself but my wife and my kids it's a fear that that as the breadwinner, you're the provider. So I fear that always, is not being able to provide for my family.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Your wife's a fighter, bro. She's a fighter.
Yeah, she is. That's my hero.
Yeesh. Hey, so, okay. All that being said, what are some things that you're doing mentally to prepare for retirement?
So I think it has to do a lot with, I'm going to take this from a couple of different approaches. So my personal story is, at the rank that I'm retiring as, is understanding that's what I did for the Army. That doesn't translate outside of the Army. Like, I was a sergeant major in the Army. Outside of that, I don't mean shit. You walk around and you say, I'm Sergeant Major Salazar, and people are like, who the fuck are who? What does that mean? And so understanding, like, the day that I retired, or the day that I stopped, I took the uniform off, I'm not a sergeant major anymore. That's what I did. That's not who I am. It's what I did for the Army. And so a lot of people, I've had plenty of conversations of people saying that they don't have purpose. And I couldn't disagree with somebody more when they said that the Army was their purpose. No, it wasn't. The Army was your passion because it aligned with your purpose. We all joined for separate reasons, but your passion was to help people. Your passion was to defend those that can't defend themselves, or that's your passion, and you were able to live your passion through the Army, and that was your purpose. But the Army's not your purpose, and so being able to have those thoughts and understand that you are mentally strong and able to succeed not only in the Army but outside of the Army. And then for the soldiers that were, that didn't, I'm fortunate, and I'll talk about this openly to anybody, is that the rank that I achieved was not because of me. It was because the soldiers that I served with, their accomplishments You know, I thrived on their accomplishments. You know, they did it for me, and my job as a leader was to give back to them tenfold. And so everything, any leader in the Army that says different is, you know, fuck them, they're a piece of shit, and they're selfish. But you owe everything that you have to your soldiers. And so that, to me, that's being mentally prepared and mentally strong. Those are the things that I think about. And those soldiers that may have not made it to retirement, they're the ones that I know struggle, because of, you know, maybe they were like, they had my attitude when I first got out. You know, it was, I'm king shit. You know, I'm king of the world. Everybody's gonna be knocking down my door. Nope, not at all. And so you got to be able to prepare yourself to be that one day one private that doesn't know shit and doesn't mean shit to anybody, but you're qualified. And so two things: one is understand your worth as a person.
Oh, wow.
And two, is make sure that you highlight your qualifications, to the job that you want to do when you get out of the military.
Man, that had to be one of the most insightful things somebody had to say on this platform about the passion and purpose. Like, man, I'm gonna call you motivational Salazar. Man, that actually did give me goosebumps. I'm dead serious. That was amazing what you just said right there. Like 100%. And I appreciate you for saying that, because a lot of people, they do get purpose mixed up into what they do, as opposed to who they supposed to be and who they are as an individual.
Absolutely. And so, you know, one of the big things is taking advantage of the things that I neglected to do after my first enlistment. I wholeheartedly took advantage of it this time around, and that was that Soldier for Life transition assistance program. So I'm going to throw some staggering numbers at you. You know, the Army really went to work by developing the Soldier for Life and getting employment for people when they get out of the military, because the unemployment rate for military is so high that the Department of Defense pays billions of dollars each year in unemployment. And so if we can allow soldiers, and I'm going to tell you, this is the shit that gets me like fired up, is if you're active duty and you're a leader and you're watching this, you have to allocate the time for your service member that is exiting the military, allocate the time for him or her to properly transition out of the military, which I'm so thankful for this CSP, the Career Skills Program. It's an extraordinary program that allows people to go intern for up to 6 months. Oh, and wow. The Army can't touch you, which is amazing. You know, no CQ, no duties, nothing like that. So that allows, and I wish people would take advantage of that program. I absolutely did. But it will reduce the amount of money that the military or the Department of Defense has to pay in unemployment rates. But what it does is it puts people in positions so that way you can be that provider. So you don't, it's going to remove that fear of being a provider for your family. What comes next? Then you don't have to resort to alcoholism, drugs, suicide. You know, it's going to bring all of those rates down. So it was a big plug for the SFL TAP, but I think it's such an important agency.
I knew nothing about that. Nobody really helped me with my transition, like out of the military. Everything was pretty much on me. I got out of the military, went to school, got my degrees, got out, started work. And you know, one thing that a lot of people don't tap into is that transition from where you were to where you're supposed to be, as far as being under somebody else's tutelage. Like, you have a new leader that's not upholding some type of standard, because the standards are totally different as a civilian. Yeah. And you kind of look at them as like, oh, that's kind of chewed up. And you know, you fight inside of you to hold back on the things that you want to say to them, but at times you're like, I can't let this go. Like I can't just sit back and not say anything because the military trains you to be a leader from day one, from private. That's how they're training you to lead. But a lot of people,
Absolutely.
they can't really get that out. I was one of them that really couldn't get that out of their head. But do you think the military gave you the tools necessary to be effective in the civilian sector, and why?
No, absolutely. So one of the company that I work for right now, and I'm gonna it's they can any company can teach you to do whatever it is that you're supposed to do. Now, about 12 years ago, the military, all about, it all revolves around this unemployment benefits, but they started with this certification program, right? And so there's another website, it's called Cool. So you can go on there, it's credentialing opportunities. But the certifications are so important. And so if you are let's say, we'll take it for an 88 mic. 88 mics, when somebody got out of the Army and they drove trucks, big rigs, flat trailers, the whole 9 yards. Well, when they exited the Army, they weren't credentialed as a commercial, they didn't have a commercial driver's license. So that didn't translate well. And so then the Army was like, why don't we have this credentialing and certification program for every single MOS? So that way it translates over to the civilian sector. So if I wanted, I'm a military policeman. If I wanted to be a cop when I got out of the military, what did that provide me? So now we have, like, for military police, you have a federal law enforcement credential now. And so what that does is it allows me the opportunity to go work for the DOD as a police officer, or you have what's called reciprocity a civilian police department might give me a condensed academy versus having to go through the entire one because I have that. So the credentialing part is the first thing. The second thing, and most important, are the values. So the Army values creates this culture in the Army that every civilian company just begs for. They want it. And so they just look for people that have these certain qualities, and we possess them. Every soldier possesses them, and the really good soldiers are the ones that live by. They live by those Army values, and so that it just plays into a culture that so many companies are begging for. And then they'll say, hey, you know what? I don't care if you know how to work on a computer or drive a truck or whatever the job is. You're possessing qualities. I'll teach you how to do that shit. But what I can't teach you is to be a good person. I can't teach you that kind of culture. So you already have it. That's what we want. And so those two things alone absolutely prepared me for being that next chapter in my life.
That's amazing. That is certain characteristics that can't be taught. It's being a good person. That leaves a lot of people. Like, being a good person, for some is hard, but at the end of the day, you get a satisfaction for being a certain type of people to people that you love and people that you're trying to bring up. So that's major. What would you say to someone transitioning out of service?
Well, it brings me to a story. And it's called, I call it like it's called Delusional Entitlement. Woo. So when you were in the Army and when I was in the Army, depending on the position that you had, you were given certain entitlements. And that's okay. Enjoy the entitlements. And I'm going to tell you a story why. Back in the day, there was this gentleman who was very high up, in the government, and he was invited to speak in front of a bunch of people. And so it was like a week before, the company called him and said, hey, look, we're excited for you. We want you to come and speak. And he said, cool, not a problem. And he said, all right, we've got your flight taken care of. Just be at the airport. And as a matter of fact, don't even worry about it. We'll pick you up at your house. We're going to drive you to the airport. We'll get you on the plane, the whole 9 yards, and we'll get you there. So he gets on day of, he gets on the, he gets picked up, nice limo. They take him over to the airport. He gets on the plane, first class seat, gets off the plane. You go there, there's an individual with the sign that says, the guy's last name, grabs his bag for him, puts it in the bag, opens the door, takes him to a hotel, this really nice hotel. Concierge comes out and they check that he's already pre-checked in, and they take everything up to his room. They said, tomorrow, just be downstairs at about 8 o'clock. We'll have somebody there to pick you up. Next day arrives, pick him up, take him over to the auditorium. They go into the back. They go the back way, and they take him right to a green room where there's just all this food and people just at his beck and call. And so he gets himself prepared, and somebody's there to tell him like the sequence of events, the whole 9 yards. So he gets up on the stage for his speech, and right on the stage, there's this nice porcelain coffee cup, and it's full of coffee, and he just takes a sip of it and he gives his speech. Everybody in the audience, they love the speech. And so they were like, next year, we got to do this again. Well, next year, the guy is not in that position anymore. He's just Joe Schmo, every day, just the individual. So they asked him if he wants to do it again next year. He said, absolutely. So about a year later, when the time comes, no phone call was given to him. So he was like, well, man, maybe I just need to get my own plane ticket. So he gets his own plane ticket. He drives himself to the airport, and he goes to the hotel that he already booked himself, and he stays the night. And the next day he gets up, he gets his own continental breakfast. He pays for his room and he checks out. He drives to the auditorium, except this time he goes into the front. He parks in general parking, and he goes through the front, and he just kind of looks around, and nobody's there to greet him or anything like that. And so he finds somebody and he says, hey, where do you want me to go? And they're like, I don't know, just go stand over on the side. And he was like, well, is there like any coffee? And they were like, yeah, there's some coffee over there. So he goes over there and he grabs this paper cup and he fills it up, and he goes up and he does his speech again. So the whole purpose of that story is, when you are in a position and there are entitlements to that position, it's okay to enjoy those entitlements, but understand it's for the position, it's not for the person. And so when you leave and you're no longer in that position, don't expect those entitlements, because now they're delusional. And it all resorts all into that same factor of purpose and passion, that it's not your entitlement anymore. It's for the position. So that's what I would leave to any military person that's exiting, is understand that the person you were and the soldier that you were, it was a position that people, they thanked you for your service, and they might have given you a 10% discount or a free meal at Applebee's on Veterans Day, but that's for the position, man. Don't think for 1 second that you're entitled to anything else just because you served in the Army or the Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Force, Coast Guard. I'll throw them all in there. It doesn't matter, So enjoy the entitlements while you have it, because when you are a civilian, you're not entitled to anything.
Not one thing. That's motivation by Salazar. I love it. I love it. I love it. What would you leave us with a motivational message?
Absolutely. 100%. And I already said it once, and I'll say it again. You got to be a good person. There's no sense on being an asshole to people, because, you treat people with respect and kindness, and you're probably going to get it back. And if that's the person you are, don't change the person you are just because somebody else is a dick or an asshole, right? Don't change who you are. Be true to yourself. Be a good person. And if you're in a leadership position, by all means, you take care of the people that you lead. Leadership, and I'm going to steal a quote from Simon Sinek, leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge. And so, you create a climate that people want to be in. You create that people enjoy coming to work. And I promise you, you're going to get so much more out of them if people enjoy coming to work and doing their job. Make it fun for them. And then for you, try and make your job enjoyable. Like I got it. It doesn't matter if you are, it doesn't matter what position you are, because every position is needed. There's not one position or one person that's better than the next. Right. Everybody is absolutely equal. It's not about position. It's not about race. It's not about anything. There's only one, in my eyes, there's one race, and it's the human race. So you treat everybody the exact same and you will get it back tenfold. I promise you that.
Man, I appreciate you for your time. Thank you for your service. Thank your wife for her service and her resilience. I thank you. Thank your family. I thank everything that you do. Thank you. Hey, have you ever thought about getting into motivational speaking? You are a very strong storyteller, brother. Very strong. Very inspirational too.
No, I haven't. I've never even thought about it. I mean, I like to be around people. I've been in a leadership position, since 2 years after I joined the military. Actually, it was about a year. I became a specialist, and they made me a team leader at that. And I've been a leader ever since. But no, I haven't really talked about motivational speaking. It's just I got a passion for life, and I like to help people. That's my passion is to help people. I love it.
Servitude, man. I love it. Once again, thank you. Hey, vets, let's talk. Who's up next for formation, man? Y'all need to get in here. I hope y'all picking up what he throwing down. Who's up next?